This conference will now be recorded.
And I greet you all in the spirit of water reliability and water use efficiency, and in the spirit of making water conservation a California way of life. With that, we will have, I will call this meeting to order. And for the record, we'll have roll call by our acting general manager or interim general manager.
Yes, thank you very much, President Williams. We'll begin with committee member, Director Scott Houston.
Here.
And Chair, President Harold Williams.
Here.
Both members of the committee are here. Let me also ask for Director Desi Alvarez.
Here.
Did I hear Director Don Deere? Director Don Deere. Okay. Director Gloria Gray.
Here.
Thank you very much. So we do have 4 members of the Board of Directors here today for the Public Information and Education Committee.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll move to item number 3, which is public comment. Any public comment?
President Williams, we have not received any public comment through our system or via email, but let me ask, I was looking at the attendees. We do have a caller or 2. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak under public comment? I do not hear any.
Okay, and then we'll move to item 4, which is a presentation. Do we have any?
We do not have any presentations today.
So next then we'll, number 5, action calendar.
We have no action items today.
Okay, then we'll move to item number 6, information calendar. And I see here we have you, and we'll get started straight away. Mr. General Manager, item A, 6A.
Yes, President Williams, before you, we do have a handful of information items today, all timely and all ready to go. The first item, 6A, is information update on 2021 water harvest.
Excuse me, EJ.
Yes.
There seems to be a lot of chatter or noise out there on the line. Someone needs to mute.
We will have staff mute everyone. I do see a couple of highlighted boxes. So we will begin today with Melissa Buendia, our public information specialist, for an update on our 2021 water harvest.
Great, thank you, EJ. Good morning, committee chair and members of the committee and board. As mentioned, I will be providing an event planning update for the water harvest event this year. So just starting off with a procurement update, staff has distributed or did distribute an informal request for proposals on the week of June 21st and received 3 proposals by the submission deadline for on July 14th. And this request for proposals was for an event production company to assist staff in the event planning process. So at the time of this memo's submission, staff was wrapping up the selection process, but currently we are at the tail end of finalizing the contract with Innovate Marketing Group, which is the event production company of choice. So a combination of factors contributed to this selection, but most especially that their organization has extensive experience with adapting to and hosting virtual events. So staff is excited to onboard Innovate Marketing Group next week to begin assisting staff with the planning of our first ever online water harvest. So moving along to promotion overview. So staff will be pursuing a series of digital and printed materials that will be shared through various channels in the form of a save the date press release. Thank you, President Williams, for approving the quote. So staff is in the process of finalizing that press release and plans to distribute next week. We will also be pursuing, of course, our event flyer distribution. So we will be developing that collateral piece for distribution in digital and print form for our general public, as well as school distribution and our Spanish translation that we typically do. Of course, we'll also be pursuing advertisements, both digital and print, across relevant local publications across the service area. Of course, signage of our monument sign on the corner of Hughes Way, our social media posts, and of course, our email blasts, both West Basin and partner e-blasts with South Bay COG, as well as our cities and any school-related e-newsletters that we can take advantage of. So staff's main priority at this time is to onboard the event production company, as well as finalizing a theme that is fresh, fun, and relevant that will tie into all of the branded promotional materials that the board can look forward to seeing. So staff will work closely with the Office of the Acting General Manager to communicate with and gather feedback from the Board of Directors as the flyer is being developed and finalized. So we do plan on returning to the September Public Information and Education Committee meeting to provide another update on the promotional plan timeline, since that will be a month out from the event, as well as provide the Board of Directors with the relevant promotional materials to help spread the word. So with that, that is my update on the event planning as of today. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them now.
Okay, well, thank you for that report. Director Houston.
No questions, thank you.
Director Alvarez. Any other board members out there? Director Gray? Director Dwr?
No, thank you.
None? Okay. Thank you very much. No questions. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to the event. Thank you. Next item, please.
Yes, President Williams, the next item we have is item 6B, our water shortage contingency plan outreach and communications. For this presentation, we have Amy Rocha, our manager of communications. And just as way of background, you might recall that in June, the West Basin Board of Directors did adopt not only their urban water management plan, but also the water shortage contingency plan. Since then, in a subsequent board action, the board did adopt an action to move into our water shortage level 1 stage. So this is related to that, but also the overall plan. So with that, I'll hand it over to Amy.
Thank you, EJ. Good morning, members of the committee and board. I appreciate that introduction because that actually covers some of the staff report items. So today I want to go over some highlights and just point out a few things in the packet, which I know you have in front of you and have reviewed. But what I'm about to present on the slide that we're on here on the screen is just some snapshots and some highlights of where we'll focus our efforts based on the communications protocols that are part of the water shortage contingency plan. And that in full is attached as attachment A. But for discussion today, we want to get into the highlights. So let's go ahead and move along to the next slide, please. And which is just for anybody following along, packet page 16. So as far as kind of have this broken down into two buckets, one is just communication side of things, and then the other is outreach. And some of the key elements is foundational, is just some of our messaging. I know we have already developed talking points that we take our cues from Metropolitan Water District, implement some of the urban water management plan messaging, and then are pulling from kind of recent data based on day-to-day news. And these are the key messages that will inform any other materials that we develop. One thing I do want to note about this, so our public information and the water policy team has been really participating in various work groups to kind of keep our finger on the pulse of what other agencies are doing, how they're addressing terms like drought, which have kind of been a point of discussion. Some people are shy about using that word. People are trying to be mindful of the fact of, not inciting a little bit of fatigue yet, as we expect, things to progress. So there's a couple of work groups I wanted to point out. So For Metropolitan, we have 3 work groups that we participate in, the Public Information Officers Group, the Water Use Efficiency Group, as well as the Education Team. So it's always great that we share, kind of those conversations on how we're talking about drought. In addition, the Aqua Communications Team, which Melissa Buendia is part of that committee, she'll share with us, messaging, resources, toolkits, because we always like to, just build off of and echo some of our statewide messaging as well. Just from most recent July PIO meeting at Met, which is on a quarterly basis, they showcased some of their messaging that they plan to do. And I know the Met Caucus yesterday touched on this a little bit about their ad campaign. They're taking a softer approach, not using drought so much at the moment. Their preview of the Collateral is more of a California lifestyle, using some of the messaging of, you know what to do, and kind of having that softer tone at the moment. Of course, as things progress and they declare any shortages and whatnot, that may change. But that's kind of the nuances of messaging. And we're still kind of in a lot of the committees that presented on what we're doing, and actually West Basin had the opportunity to present as well, and to the PIO group about how we're approaching it. Still a lot in development, still kind of taking things as it comes. Another element of messaging is, how our retailers are speaking about it. Cal Water's got their own campaign. Malibu had expressed, some collaboration with their county in terms of, how hard they want to go. So again, it's kind of this collaborative mode right now, even though we all recognize the governor's declaration, our own declaration, and the need to use water wisely. Moving along on that note is just, that trickles down to our website. We do have a dedicated drought page that we're updating. So for example, with the support of Matt Vey, he provided the resolution and information from the water shortage contingency plan. So that's available on our website. We update the drought monitor map regularly, and are just looking for opportunities to build out that page as a go-to resource for those who visit our site. In addition, we did issue a press release, and I'll talk to that a little bit more during the communications update. And at this point, we had something timely to share in terms of our water shortage declaration. But as things progress, we can either issue releases or, for example, with that particular release, we offered the opportunity to just even have a background, interview conversation about what this means for everybody locally and those local readers. Another area of focus for our website is our water saving programs. Depending on kind of how we move with any additional funds and whatnot, we'll continue to highlight, these beneficial programs. Similar, all this echoes into social media. So we're, on the regular looking for ways to share news, share our programs, incorporate drought messaging into, whether it's recycled water related and how that conserves water, but, kind of weaving that all the way through these elements. And then finally, well, almost finally, is our digital and advertising marketing elements. So we're trying to focus on tangible, valuable benefits to our community, and we want to maximize our existing budget. And so a lot of the marketing that we will be doing in relation to the drought is really pushing the conservation water use efficiency programs, with very actionable items, telling people to register, to take the survey, to get that rebate, and really showcasing the value provided there. And then finally is the collateral. So these, we did just update our water use efficiency conservation fact sheet, and that has a snapshot of our programs. We're creating dedicated flyers and social media so that our media and our community retailers can use it and build off of that. So again, we're trying to keep this as cohesive as possible as messaging is refined. Moving along to the next slide, slide 17. I'll speak to a little bit of the outreach elements. So I did touch already on media relations, but continuing to provide those news, offering backgrounds, offering conversations to make sure the reporters are informed. Same with our stakeholder outreach, again, working with our cities, our retail providers, our water users to kind of, again, keep our finger on the pulse of what they're saying, what support they may need, how we can piggyback on our resources and share information. And then as far as it relates to more of our community education and outreach, developing that dedicated presentation, having, when we have speaking opportunities, weaving those drought messages about using water wisely into our presentations, continuing to offer classes so people know where their water comes from, why it's so vulnerable, and as well as including, our facility tours and talking about the benefits of recycled water in drought times. And for example, yesterday, Dale Ramos-Young, Janelle Ancayan, and Melissa Buendia led a virtual tour of the Edward C. Little facility yesterday and had about 24 people participate. So still getting active interest in our ECL. And then finally, of course, incorporating all of this into our school age program. We always say that our school children are our ambassadors to their community and their parents and their families. And so we definitely will speak to that, through our programs. So again, this was just meant to be a high level overview. That concludes my remarks here. But if there's any questions, feedback, areas of focus that you want the team to look at or suggestions, just let me know, please. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you for that very, very, very nice presentation. I will talk that Director Houston. Comments, please.
Sure, thank you, Amy. And I know that this is all just starting and ramping up. And I guess my only question at this point, or comment both, is it seems like, again, the biggest bang for the buck for all of us will probably be pushing people to take out grass, to water less. I think we have to remember that too, water less, right? In the last drought, that was a big issue. Everyone was talking about it. Most people already overwater their lawns. So even if they're not taking grass out, they should be looking at watering less. So at least my perspective on the messaging, I would, if you guys might want to incorporate some of that back out to the communities we serve, but also really pushing the rebate programs and remind them. I think however you tweak that, in your social media and such, it seems like every dozen days or whatever, it almost has to kind of pop back in there in a different way, because it's hit or miss with folks. And then however we work with our our retailers and some of our our city folks to get that messaging out as well, and try and ramp up some partnership with as some of the cities we serve are really good with social media and other outreach, and or pinging the city council members or the mayors to make a mention at the council meeting. I think every which way you can push it out, that there's others who will be a voice. We can only do so much, right? So, but again, that's probably one of the best ways. And on that note, even yesterday I saw down the street from me, I mean, the sprinklers are going off, the water's all over the street, at a condo building, and it's very shameful. So either way, we've got to just push real hard, at least on that. And then I'll just kind of watch when we get to the outreach how that turned out. I know you guys did an announcement when we did the water contingency level 1 situation. So anyway, but those are my thoughts. I think that's our #1 issue is take out grass, water less. And I know that watering your trees is big. People forget to water the trees, so that's a piece of it. But thank you very much, Amy.
Okay, Director Alvarez.
I'll just piggyback on Director Houston's comments. I think that one of the more important things to do is get the word out about just using less water, and the place where we can save the most water is in the landscape uses and the elimination of I know that later on in the agenda we got the grass replacement program update, and I'm looking forward to that item. And I think we should be able to talk a little bit more about our commitment to turf removal. That's it.
Okay, very good. Director Gray?
No, thank you very much. Amy gave a very thorough report. Thank you.
Director Dwr. Okay, very good comments. And I agree with you on the water issue, using less water. And I think we have to pound that in. I'm sorry. We got to be doing some guerrilla marketing in that respect. You have to keep saying it. You got to keep on saying it, because they will relax. I've seen it myself where, unfortunately, I see water running over the curb. I mean, that is definitely a terrible sin. So we need to get that message out there and get back to, I guess, our retailers will get back on how often folks are to water their lawns. I think it was the last drought, it was it was 3 days a week, and the time was there. So I think we need to get back to that if they haven't already. I haven't received that in my water bill, but I know I still have my sprinkler set for that, but I can also delete a day, so that wouldn't hurt. Okay, well, thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item. Thank you, staff.
Yes, thank you, President Williams. The next item we have is item 6C, and it's our monthly communications update, and that will also be handled by Amy Rocha, the Manager of Communications.
Thank you very much, EJ, and thank you for those comments, and I've definitely noted them, and it's great to hear. Messaging does need to be heard multiple times before it sinks in. So for this presentation, it's just highlights from the month of July. I'll be on packet page 20. Let's actually go ahead and skip to packet page 20, please. This is just an overview of some of the communications activity from the past month. So we did have a summer e-newsletter. Everybody on the board and staff should have received it along with our subscribers. We did have higher than average rates of the open. So we saw a lot of readers on that first story about drought. Rebates was the other big story that got the second number of eyes on it. And so we do plan to have, dedicated emails as well that focus on droughts and rebates as our programming, rolls out in full. So that it went out mid-July. And then in addition, we posted just a web news story about kind of the implications of the Hyperion event on our recycled water program. We know that the city of Hermosa Beach had expressed interest in, what was happening, and we know that our operations, customer service have been in contact with all of our recycled water customers. But it is good to have, a place to point to on our website and available on the current status. In addition, this report was submitted before this week, but staff did present to the Hermosa Beach Council on Tuesday, August 10th, to provide an update on what we're doing to ensure delivery and permitted use of this non-drinking water source. And staff worked extensively with Los Angeles Times reporter Robert Lopez for the story that came out yesterday, August 11th. Related to that, we did share that news story as well as update our website with, current news about our turbidity issues and kind of, again, reiterating that what steps we're doing to proactively communicate with our regulators and what operations is working hard to do. So just wanted to mention that on a related note. In addition, in July, we did issue 2 press releases, which did garner some media coverage. So you can see the Urban Water Management Plan adoption, as well as the Contingency Plan Shortage Level 1. So skipping along to packet page 21, again, just a preview of the snapshot of what we issued and some of the top stories there. And then the next slide, please, is again, just snapshots of the press release. And if we go ahead and go forward one more to packet page 23, this is media coverage, which looks light. It's June 22nd to June 26th. We did actually get a bunch more coverage right after this was adopted, but we did manage to get some coverage related to the water level shortage plan. Let me see here, what did I make note to self here? We did get the Topanga, a story in the Topanga paper, as well as the Sentinel. We did follow up with them to offer, again, more background if they wanted anything beyond what we had issued in the release. The contingency shortage plan level 1 also was picked up by the El Segundo city newsletter as the final story for their issue there. So we will continue to, use these opportunities to communicate about what we're doing. Moving on to the next slide, please. I just want to give you I'm sorry, one more, packet page 25. Some of the opportunities. Now, these are just real vague topics, but these show you kind of our focus area, and they're all related to drought. Really, they all tie into this umbrella of drought. Our water use efficiency programs, what we've got actively, promoting for our grass rebates, the firescaping class in September, and then some of our other rebate offerings, as well as recycle water projects. We definitely want to take the opportunity to talk about how recycled water contributes to conserving our potable water uses, especially during drought. So that will have various announcements throughout the months ahead. And then moving along 2 slides to packet page 27. This is a snapshot of social media, just give an overview. In this case, this is where we love to be able to see our cities and our partners and our associations, share our content and our programs. We also love to be able to like and comment and share back and just leverage, that engagement there. This is, a snapshot of Lomita, the city of Malibu, as well as an association, the California Water Environmental Association, who's talking about our programs. And then moving along to the next slide is just, most popular on Twitter. This was, West Basin's congratulations to the new Met chair, the new Met general manager. And for Facebook, you can see a little bit different of a highlight. Again, this is, our partnership with Metropolitan. Again, it was Smart Irrigation Month during July, so talking about outdoor water use reductions and how to do that with smart irrigation. And then the next slide, 30, for Instagram. We did get some of our hiring opportunities for engineering. That's for Instagram as well as LinkedIn. And so it's nice to be able to showcase that we have careers to offer at West Basin. And that concludes my report. There's another attachment B that has the media clips to read at your leisure, but I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments or suggestions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Director Houston.
Sure, thank you, Amy. By the way, it's always interesting to see what plays on the different channels, We all know the demographics are different on each, so that's always kind of neat to watch. A couple, 2, 3 thoughts, and I didn't go through the packet of media clips yet. I'm just flipping through it, but you guys, I did see there was a really good article that we got included in on the INSEA website. So that's probably more, did it miss the deadline? It's probably the next batch for the next month, but there was a really great article.
If I may speak to that, thank you for raising that. It did come out after this, and I know actually Janelle was just planning sharing that information. It does have a quote from our executive manager of engineering and operations, Barkev Mersulian, and so he had participated in an interview there. I know there was some delay, and actually that reporter, just FYI, I know Director Houston, you read that publication. That reporter now reports from the Hill, so I was glad to hear her respond and let her know that, she let us know that kind of had been delayed as far as some changes at NCS. So it will be in the next clips.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, maybe when you guys get a chance, share that with the board, because it came up on a Google alert or something, but, it was really cool because, we were included, and they had interviewed people from LAWP, obviously Richard Harasak, who's now, retired, but so it must have been done right before he retired. And then there was Mike Marcus. So we were in some really interesting company. It was just a really excellent article. So that's that. I noticed that on your upcoming opportunities, and you have recycled water projects, and I'm curious what you think you might be able to leverage. I think that's a really good idea because, we got projects going on in all the different divisions, and maybe there's a way that we could try to work with, if it's the end user, if they're okay with it, to try to leverage something to say, hey, here's a project going on in your neighborhood, your backyard, right? It's, they're rehabbing a well over here on the Greenbelt, or they're over there, in El Segundo tearing up the street, but it's because they're putting in recycled water lines, or same over in Inglewood. It might be an idea that you could pitch, and maybe they'd go for it, as the status is moving along, not just when it's all done. So it's just an idea I was thinking about, because it's perfect timing to build on that. So I like your idea of somehow talking about recycled water projects in process. And then I think one or two other things I noticed, like you said, it was a little light on some of the pickup, and it's really interesting to see who's picking things up and not picking things up. So maybe with some of these, when you're doing your outreach and the press releases, if we can look strategically, like why is the beach reporter or easy reader are not picking things up, maybe, or why is the, some of the Culver City people for sure do, and so on. But each of the divisions is unique, as you know. It'd be nice to see some of the ones in the other divisions picking up a little more, at least here and there, because I think we've had some really good information out. And I know in the Herald, a lot of times also in the Herald, they do run, your press release. It's always good, So anyway, just a thought to try and diversify it a little bit, and that's just on you guys to continue that good outreach and develop relationships. And last thing, and I thought about this, it kind of goes back to the previous topic, but this is the same. Maybe we should be a little creative on some of the social media, since, as Director Williams and I both mentioned, people are out watering and it's spraying. I saw down the street too, water was running down an alleyway and into the storm drain. So this is just an idea, but maybe what if we had those types of strategic pictures and somehow said, you don't want to be this person or that person or something like that, and like tongue in cheek a little bit, and maybe we go out on a limb a little to showcase some bad behavior, but in a crafty way, just to kind of get the message across. I don't know. This is just an idea. I think you guys should look at it with your team, because as I know, like different photos and plays on words, sometimes that really gets attention. And I have a feeling that now that everyone's starting to finally get on this bandwagon about the water issues and the water waste issues, you're going to start seeing that from the other agencies as well. But let's, I applaud being creative and kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, but being tactful, because we are a public agency. So you have my support, okay? But
if I may interrupt, sorry, Director, and you have more, but just to speak to that subject too, this is a good opportunity to give you this update as well. It's kind of still in the works, but as far as social media is concerned, how we have a vacated and an eliminated position on the PI team, so we have managed to get some short-term temporary support with social media. Janelle's been doing an excellent job filling in that role, but I know school's about to get started and we kind of just need some extra support. So we did started to onboard. It just happened yesterday, actually. The firm Trepepi Smith, they run media relations for the city of Culver City, Rolling Hills Estates, and they had great recommendations. We did an informal RFP. Again, it's short-term, small dollar project. So that's great to hear too, because we can start to think a little bit more creatively, have a little bit of that extra creative bandwidth for social media, to be able to also look at what our retailers, because a lot of times they're the ones that are enforcing, have those wastewater hotline information, can kind of speak to some of that side of things as well. So I'll make note of that to add to one of our future agendas, and nice to have some fresh eyes as well that can kind of pursue some of these ideas.
Very good, great, and thank you, Amy. Thank you so much.
Director Alvarez.
I don't have any additional comments.
Very good. Is Don Deere here? Director Gray?
Thank you. No, thank you.
Okay, great job. Great comments. All right. Is that it, team, on that item? Okay, let's move to the next item.
Yeah, thank you, President Williams. The next item that we have on our agenda is item 6D, which begins on packet page 44, and it is related to the grass replacement program updates. However, I did want to kind of set the table on this item. As you recall, at last month's board meeting, the board did decide to remove several memberships that West Basin Municipal Water District had been involved in. And with those savings, it was the direction of the board to invest that money in a program dedicated to the disadvantaged communities and the census tracts that include disadvantaged communities within the West Basin Municipal Water District service area. That program was identified as an opportunity to increase the grass replacement rebate in those areas, 2, kind of increase the education about that, and 3, potentially promote or involve kind of the urban canopy or trees within those communities. Staff has been dedicated to designing this program, and I just wanted to set that context because a lot of things go into that, and Jennifer is going to be taking this item for us, but I wanted to kind of give it some perspective because staff is very busy on multiple fronts as far as identifying potential partnerships and how to create this program quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to throw this over to Jennifer Vasquez, our Water Policy Resources Analyst, to handle this item. But this item is specifically dedicated towards that request from the board and that direction from the board. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, EJ. Thank you, and good morning, Chairman Williams, committee, and board members. This information, as EJ mentioned, begins on page 44. And just, I did begin with a background, and I, for the most part, will lead you through the information item detail by detail so that I make sure to capture every element that was included in this information item so that at the end of this, we can receive additional information and direction from you. So on July 26, as was mentioned, West Basin staff was directed to explore additional options to increase outdoor water efficiency programs in the West Basin service area. There was an increased focus placed on communities at or below median household income. And so staff has considered some of the following objectives and challenges below that residents have experienced when participating in grass replacement rebate program, and we aim to create the maximum benefits to communities with a timely and cost-effective program recommendation below. Additionally, I did want to point out that we will work to incorporate a working group with the retail water agencies focused on advancing program participation in communities defined by CalEnviroScreen SB 535 as disadvantaged communities. Future program updates will aim to support findings in the West Basin Potential DAC Program Strategic Document drafted by O'Kane Consulting in 2020. This document identified communities with DAC census tracts to include Inglewood, Lenox, Del Aire, Athens, Westmont, Hawthorne, Gardena, Lawndale, and Carson. The areas of Culver City, West Hollywood, and Malibu have less than 3% of the population that fall also into the DAC census tract designation. So some of the objectives that we hope to achieve with this program update would be to allocate additional resources to the grass replacement rebate program to achieve increased participation in long-term water saving projects through climate appropriate, drought tolerant landscaping. We would like to explore opportunities to eliminate barriers for participation with increased resources for communities at or below median household income as defined by CalEnviroScreen SB 535 map that was previously mentioned. We would like that focus on the urban forest initiatives across the area for grass replacement projects, and also enhance resident engagement through the adoption of educational opportunities in the community that increase participation levels of the grass replacement rebate and future program elements. Lastly, we do want to utilize guidance from the existing planning documents that are included in the water use data study, the West Basin Potential DAC program document, the 2021 drought communication plan, and the 2021 water shortage contingency plan. So while drafting the recommendations, I did want to recognize some of the challenges that residents experience with the current grass replacement rebate process and bring the resident experience to focus as we talk about participation, and also seeking to increase participation in communities is important when we're considering the next steps. So one of the main challenges is the typical rebate model process and the initial investment required upfront with a typical rebate application. So we recognize that rebate checks are received 8 to 10 weeks after project completion. We also realized cost of materials and design assistance must be considered ahead of time to the actual funding approval. Additionally, there are challenges in the acquisition of landscape contractors in the service area available to complete drought-tolerant landscape projects and irrigation updates. So one of the recommendations, as was mentioned by EJ, includes consideration to utilize additional grass replacement funding to augment the existing $3 per square foot rebate to $4 per square foot in fiscal year 21-22 in DAC census tracts only. The timeline, if approved in the August board meeting, funding would be processed in September 2021 for an increased reservation amount. Again, this increased funding would be utilized only in DAC census tracts for grass replacement rebate applications, and staff would work to recognize the eligible census tracts with Metropolitan and their vendor, EGIA, utilizing the Cal EnviroScreen SB 535 Disadvantaged Communities map. And similar to how the washer rebate applications are now processed through the Change and Save program, if you require an example of how that would basically be tapped into the SoCal Water Smart program. An additional component of this recommendation is to explore opportunities to utilize available West Basin funding and also Metropolitan Water District member administered allocation funding to supplement outdoor water efficiency incentive programs in DAC census tracts. So there is available MAA funding through Metropolitan that prioritizes use of funds in DAC focused programs, with the ability to structure a district-wide program if that's the direction we take. Additional grant application opportunities are also available to pursue funding for this program in the next few months. This pilot program will aim to provide an update to outdoor-focused water efficiency through residential design assistance, increased urban forest initiatives through the inclusion of drought-tolerant trees in landscape replacement projects, exploring a possible plant voucher system, educational webinars, irrigation upgrades through the installation of outdoor efficiency devices such as weather-based irrigation controllers and rotating sprinkler nozzles. I did appreciate the comment of the irrigation upgrades earlier, and that can be fixed really easily by weather-based irrigation controllers, limiting that amount of time that the irrigation systems are going off to allow the water not to run off to the sidewalk or the street, and then updating those rotating sprinkler nozzles to address the correct areas where the irrigation is occurring. And also considered is the new element of the Metropolitan program that includes leak detection flow monitoring devices, and consideration for that as well for the outdoor program. Now this timeline would be a little different for this portion of the recommendation, just based on the additional preparation required for this type of program, which would include drafting a Metropolitan program funding form in mid-August, so around this time frame. Requesting proposals, which would be released in early September, and finally vendor selection in October 2021 for that design assistance, and also setting up any type of drought-tolerant tree program that would come of this update. I did want to mention two last considerations that we wanted to consider for this program, which would include the increased educational opportunities with monthly grass replacement webinars explaining the process to achieve more applications and more knowledge for the grass replacement rebate. We are hoping this can begin in late September or early October, and this would provide an opportunity for residents to ask questions and really engage with our staff about the process, which we realize is something that is needed at this point to make them more familiar with the process. Lastly, it is important that we note that a strong marketing focus will be developed with the public information team to allocate additional funding to strongly market any type of new program elements that emerge from today's direction. So that concludes my presentation on this item, and at this time I am open for any questions, feedback regarding the recommendations presented as we seek director input in moving this forward.
Very good, thank you. Director Houston.
Sure, real quick. Thank you, Jennifer. I think it's a very thorough report. I fully support adding the extra $1 into the DAC census tracts. I'm assuming that's something that, legally we're not prevented from doing, but at the end of the day, I completely support it. I think I really like two things you mentioned, and one was more of the outreach in the sense of like workshops or what have you. And of course, for the most part, a lot of these you can do virtual in some capacity. And so I think it would be good if you can, and I know it takes a lot of bandwidth, but if they could potentially schedule more of the online workshops or whatever throughout the month or 2 months, so people have more opportunities to jump on one of those and get the live interaction. Now separately, I'm assuming you record those and can post them, so if somebody missed it, they can access it. And I'm also thinking, and you may have it already, perhaps just put together just a straightforward sort of here's the facts instructional style video that's always there, and then you have an email address or whatever, how to get in touch with our staff. So my only other suggestions there, but and on that, this will go probably to your other topics later in this meeting, is same story. I think we still need to just keep pushing as often as possible in the live workshops when we could, because people meet at different times. But I hear what you're saying. There are folks who do want to be able to ask questions live virtually rather than watch a video that kind of tells them what's going on, but then they don't participate. So anyway, there's my feedback, but I fully support what you guys are proposing on this.
Thank you. Director Alvarez.
Yes, thank you for the report. In terms of the funding, you mentioned increasing the turf replacement contribution to $4 a square foot. Is that?
That's correct. That's correct, yes.
Is it possible that maybe for the disadvantaged communities, I'm just talking about that component of the program, that you could increase it? I think we ought to consider increasing it further, because in a lot of cases that is not enough money. So I would encourage you to revisit that and maybe go a little bit higher. We are limited by the amount of dollars that we put into the disadvantaged community program, portion of the turf replacement program. But if we could increase the unit reimbursement costs, that I think would be helpful. The other items that I'd like to get some feedback from you on is in terms of the challenges that you mentioned. And my understanding based on this is that we actually are rebating the folks after they complete the conversion and then come back and show the expense that they incurred. In some of the disadvantaged community groups, especially the ones that are below the median household income for the county, it is sometimes difficult for them to upfront the costs. So is it possible that we may be able to look at some kind of a program where, and a lot of times, let me back up a second, a lot of times what's going to happen in some of the more disadvantaged households, they're going to do a lot of the labor themselves. But what they need help with is in the purchasing of equipment and in disposal of the turf that they're removing, etc., which they get charged for that. So is it possible that maybe we ought to look at how we can either work with or guarantee to some of the providers and or vendors that they're going to get paid, so that low-income households that may not have the money to upfront the cost and therefore forego the opportunity actually get some help in upfronting those costs. So that's something that I'd like to see us be able to look at and develop.
Great, thank you, Director Alvarez. And yeah, we can definitely consider that model of contractors as some background of what other agencies have done. And so this recommendation really came about based on some of the aspects that are challenges to residents. And so the design assistance and also the plant voucher system would be something that could be implemented to lower those costs that you're mentioning, as far as residents that are going through the process with the added rebate amount that we're considering, or if there's a higher incentive amount that would be now considered. And so the design assistance and also the connecting of the plant voucher system, which could not just only include it could include the trees that were mentioned, but also look at potentially partnering with nurseries to provide some of those materials once residents commit to completing these type of projects. But we can definitely explore further the model that you're mentioning, which sounds like more of an agreement between landscape contractors prior to residents starting the project, so that they have that, they're ensured that they will be paid. I guess this recommendation that we have now on the information item tries to tackle that in some way, right, by lowering the cost of the materials and the process so that they are ready with the design upfront to begin the work. We could also potentially look at agreements with the disposal companies to see if we could do something similar to what we're hoping to achieve with the plant voucher, where they would receive a benefit of being able to dispose of the grass removed at certain locations, very similar to that voucher system. One thing that we did receive feedback with Metropolitan staff, if residents would like to participate with the, not just with the rebate, we do not want to affect the timeline that is included with their projects. So what we're hoping to do is get residents really prepared up until the point where they're applying for this dollar rebate, and have the design in place, have the materials, for example, the plants and the trees integrated into their design, and having a voucher system ready to assist them with that, but also not affect the timeline for their application process with the rebate through SoCal Water Smart. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, we can definitely research more towards the model that you're referring to, which would be more of an agreement with the contractors completing this work.
Just one caution. In a lot of low-income households, some of these households actually look for, I shouldn't say look forward, but they'll do the labor. So, and it's expensive to hire a contractor. You get a lot more bang for your buck if the household itself, because they'll come at it and they say, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to make some improvements, etc., once they're educated to the opportunity that's available to them. But they'll volunteer that labor. So I don't want to do something that precludes that. Actually, just the opposite. We ought to encourage that as much as possible, because then a lot more will get done. And when that's done that way, they'll take a lot more ownership in all of this.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I do think, by lowering the cost, not just with the plant voucher system that I proposed in the information item, the design assistance, to get them, as you said, that ownership of the project, they have the materials needed to begin that process, but also they hope and would like to participate in the creation of that garden. They have the materials there that they need, but then go forward and create the garden space for their own home or the front yard, depending on where it's located. So I really appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Well, that's it for my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Any other comments, Director Houston?
No, I just want to piggyback on that very quickly, because it's a really good point. So you know, in my division, when people talk to me about potentially taking out turf, and I always direct them the rebate program, and of course their big questions, oh, who do I hire? Who do I hire? What do I do? You know, so obviously in parts of our community, people have resources and they'll hire people, they'll do the paperwork. I mean, themselves will do the paperwork, but they'll hire people to do the actual work. And but I will say this, I know Gus, for example, on our staff, Gus is really good at, you know, when people contact him, helping guide them. And I know he's just one person, so I'm sure Jennifer, you and others in the team, same story. So really, I think this is a great opportunity if you were to step back and see how can we help those who are going to be the do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah.
Say, look, at the end of the day, they're going to get the resources. I mean, if they apply properly and it's done properly, they're going to get it. But I would agree with what's been said. You know, there's a number of folks, they'll literally go out and do the work, or even some of them don't want to hire anybody. They want to do it themselves and make a thing out of it with them and their family and what have you. But they're going to get the rebate and they're going to get the big benefit, right, of reduced water and save money. So I think this is actually a really smart idea too. How could we potentially, and/or working with Met, but how can we look at this to appeal to the do-it-yourselfers and the people who, you know, they need that extra step or help and assistance to guide them through the process, and also to, you know, to speed up the rebate if that's at all possible too once they've outlaid their funds. But yeah, this is a, you know, we just have to hit all fronts, and so I like the creative thinking. So I really encourage that, and thank you for bringing that up, Director Alvarez.
Okay, thank you. You know, Director Alvarez, that anything is possible, right? Now, Director Gray?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to say I totally agree with Director Alvarez and thank him for thinking, you know, more into trying to help disadvantaged communities. I love his model. I support it, and I hope that staff will pursue it. And so I just want to say that. Thank you, Director Alvarez, and hopefully staff will pursue his recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah, I support it too, but I'd just like to know how would we handle the do-it-yourselfer who wants to be reimbursed in dollars for his do-it-yourself labor? How do you handle that?
That's a very good point. There are some people that are going to come back and say, I'll do the work and I want to get reimbursed. I think at this point, we should be more of encouraging, here, we're going to reimburse you for all out of your pocket costs. As I go back to my experience, that there are people that will just do it and they don't expect to be reimbursed. And long term, that's an interesting point, because I've actually been thinking about what happens as we start really pushing this along. And ultimately, if we're going to be making a substantial inroad into reducing water usage in Southern California, we're going to need to really make a change in the way we landscape our residential areas. And the incentivization right now is paying for the conversion. At some point, in some communities, not everywhere, I would never probably support it in high-end household or high-income households, but in some households, you almost are going to have to get to the point where you would actually be paying people to just remove the lawn. So it kind of gets down and getting to paying them for doing that. But I don't think we're there yet. But I think long term, that may be something that's going to have to come under consideration.
Yeah.
I'm not saying doing it now.
All right. Well, thank you. I often get the question, how will this reduce my water bill? They don't care too much about conservation at this point. They're not there, but they're very much there when you're talking about reducing their water bill. So we have to make sure that we include save water, save money if you change out your line. That is key. Okay. With that, staff, if that's it, then we can move on to the next item.
Thank you, President Williams. And before we do, let me just say thank you to the committee and to the board for the feedback on that item and for the direction specifically related to the item. This is a program that we definitely feel like we can expand, and it's an exciting opportunity. And I also want to say a special thank you to Jennifer Vasquez, who's done a tremendous amount of research and really thinking about this opportunity that you've provided to us and to these communities. So thank you to her for putting this together and getting us moving as quickly as she has. The next item that we have is item 6E, and this is our monthly conservation programs update. Typically, this item would be handled both by Gus Meza as well as Jennifer Vasquez. However, it's my understanding that the community of West Covina currently has a power outage that began last night and was supposed to be concluded today around 1 o'clock, but has been actually extended until 3:30 p.m. So I'll be filling in for Gus today, and I will try to do my best in handling his item. I do have Jennifer on hand in case you ask anything very tricky or technical, but I hope I'll be able to answer it. So this item begins on packet page 47. And again, it begins with our update on the West Basin's Change and Save program. This program was also originally designed through a specific grant that West Basin obtained and was specifically targeted to the disadvantaged communities. As Gus and the team have really progressed with meeting the specific key performance indicators on this program, we have since in this new fiscal year, we've kind of expanded it to the entire service area with, again, a very specific direction to try to promote it within our disadvantaged communities. As you recall, this is a blend of a couple of different concepts, one of which is a home audit, where we were doing it virtually and we would try to explain to homeowners and renters how to conserve water within the home. So our previous program is obviously outdoors. This would focus on indoors. Upon completing the online survey or virtual survey, you would be sent a conservation kit, which includes shower heads and aerators and different devices to be installed in the home, as well as the potential to obtain a $500 washing machine rebate. And my understanding is that that is one of the highest in the nation. And so we've really been doing a good job of promoting that. In the new fiscal year, staff has received approval from MWD to utilize the member agency administered program to fund an additional 500 online water efficiency surveys and 500 conservation kits. So despite the fact that we've exhausted the grant funds for the previous program, we have the materials, we have the marketing capabilities. We're just going to continue that through this fiscal year. We're going to maximize MWD's funding effort in relation to this, and these surveys and kits will be promoted and available district-wide. A DWR grant is, as I mentioned, is currently funding the $500 clothes washer rebate portion of this program that targets the disadvantaged communities. Currently, we've given out 150 rebates at $500 each to our residents within the disadvantaged communities. And this kind of brings up the program that you all have addressed in the previous item. You know, a high efficiency, water use efficient washing machine are expensive. The cost of those machines are significant, and a $500 rebate, though very significant as far as paying that down, the fact that the rebate comes after the purchase of the washing machine does make this problematic. So we continue to look at different opportunities to do this. And of course, in this next fiscal year, our goal is to provide an additional 250 rebates by the end of the fiscal year. So we have a lot to do as far as promoting it, but I think that there's a great opportunity here to kind of expand our outreach within the disadvantaged community and get those rebates moving forward. Residents can participate by visiting changeandsave.com or calling the South Bay Environmental Services Center. So they're going to continue to promote not only the surveys and conservation kits, but also the rebates. The effort will again continue all the way through the fiscal year, and we hope to maximize this effort. You might recall that Gus Meza has led the effort as far as extending the grant so that we have the opportunity, the added time to utilize the grant funds for the rebate. So we're going to try to maximize that. So with that, on the Change and Save program, that's the update, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you might have, specifically related to the Change and Save program.
Any questions, board members?
No questions from me.
Okay, Director Alvarez?
No question, just a comment. I think EJ alluded to it, the helping out at least in the lower income households with the upfront costs.
We'll continue to look at different opportunities and options for that. You know, it's very difficult when you talk about a $500 rebate for the purchase of a wash machine. West Basin, and this goes to Gus's credit, we looked at a lot of different options to start this program. In fact, the program was on hold for more than a year as we looked at a direct install. So we would actually bring the wash machine to them and install it. And there were a lot of issues there. And so we tried to take a lot of different angles as far as doing this. Ultimately, offering the rebate was the easiest or best option at the time, but we'll continue to look at that and bring potential options to you in the future.
Yeah, that is really a big issue there, the $500 upfront cost. I think we need to continually emphasize the change and save. They are more interested in saving money than the environment. So I think we need to save them money. It works for everybody. It saves you money. It saves the environment. It saves the environment to help your neighbors, to help your community. But it does save you money.
And President Williams, we couldn't agree more. And maybe just to highlight that fact, the marketing materials that were produced specifically for the Change and Save program were prepared by a third-party consultant. We had Allegra Consulting join us as far as promoting this effort. And in partnership with our own public information / communications team, Amy and her team, the promotional materials for that program are amazing, including large glossy dollars kind of showing exactly what you can save and symbolizing the significant rebates available. So maybe we'll send that out to you again just to remind you of the great work that's being done, not only here within West Basin, but also the great collateral that we're putting out there in the community.
Yeah, that would be good. Thank you.
So moving forward, the next item that we have begins on packet page 49, and that is specifically related to the Malibu and Topanga SMART program. As you probably recall, this program was funded through an integrated regional water management planning grant. It was actually applied for through the city of Malibu in partnership with Los Angeles County Department of Los Angeles Department of Waterworks District 29, along with West Basin. We are now in the final push to conclude this program. The program partners are currently promoting the grass replacement and device rebates. There was some recent grass replacement applications and device activity, which increased the completion percentage from 94% to 97%. So we're hitting those KPIs, the key performance indicators. Staff is also working closely with the partners to promote and conduct a firescaping webinar on September 15th, and I'll touch a little bit on that here in a second. And we're actually working on finalizing a postcard to those areas that are typically impacted by the potential fires within their community. So we're really doing our best to promote that activity. And that leads us specifically to an update on our fire escaping webinar. So if you turn to packet page 49, we are currently working to promote our fire escaping webinar throughout the Malibu Topanga area, as well as the Palos Verdes Peninsula, Kenneton Park area, Baldwin Hills, and other portions of the service area. MWD has approved West Basin's request to utilize MAA funding for 2 webinars. So we'll be doing 2 this year. And as Director Houston has pointed out on a couple of occasions, anytime we do this, it's an opportunity to record those webinars and make sure that we maximize the value of each of those webinars, because there are specific costs related to them. So if we can get them online so anybody can enjoy them at any time, that'll allow us to maintain the value into the future. We're working closely with the City of Malibu and LA County Waterworks 29 to promote the upcoming event. They'll be using several marketing channels within the city and the county. And with funding from MWD, West Basin is working to develop the postcard that I just mentioned. MWD has also approved our second webinar that will take place in the spring of 2022. That'll be focused in on the Palos Verdes region. And for the second webinar, staff conducted research and identified several areas within our service area that contain hillsides and heavy brush areas that could be impacted to fire. So again, we'll be expanding our marketing zone for that program. So with that, I'm ready to move on to our rain barrel program update, unless you have any questions.
Questions?
One question, 2 questions, EJ. On the fire escaping, I think if I recall, because I know staff had sent me the materials, maybe they sent the whole board, but is it next week you all are rolling it out? I believe there was a week mid-August that staff was going to start promoting that a month out. Is that this week or next?
I don't know if Amy can assist me here, but I do know that our postcard right now is in the final approval stage. So we hope to get that approved. And once that goes out, we're going to be targeting the areas with media posts and additional materials, as well as our project partners being the city and the county promoting the program through their channels. Amy, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Sure, I can. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I know we just got the approval for the press release. I know, yeah, the postcards are being final. So next week, I believe, is the week that will kind of really initiate this in earnest. I know we've gotten various levels of, materials in the works for event calendars and whatnot. So yeah, that should begin, and we'll send the press release to the full board once that goes out as well. I know that's just one component of outreach, though.
Okay, no, perfect. I was just trying to recall the dates without looking back in my emails. So, and I've had people already express interest that are aware of it, both from Malibu and Topanga. But I also like in this write-up that you guys mentioned some of these other areas, even near, Kenneton Park and Baldwin Hills, these areas where there's, something, a fire could spring up, or it's happened up in the Hollywood area, what have you. So it's really good that you're potentially targeting some other areas, if not just on this one, but maybe the future ones, because these are concerns. And with everything being very dry, you're getting these little pop-up fires, and then unfortunately you've got some arsonists out there, etc. So for what it's worth, I think it's great that we're trying to hit every way we can to provide the homeowners, and even if they're renters, building managers, more information. So I just ask if you would, once we get this rolling, could you all keep me posted on the RSVPs, how we're tracking, maybe per week? But like I say, I've already heard some folks who are very interested. The ones that participated in the past year have loved it. So I'm really anxious for this, you guys, so appreciate it.
No, thank you for the feedback. So moving, oh, I apologize. President Williams.
I was just asking any other directors wanting to comment. If not, go ahead, EJ.
So I'll begin with the next update, and this is a little bit longer. I wanted to point out that we are getting ready to roll out our rain barrel program. This is at the bottom of that packet page there. For our rain barrel program, our goal is to provide rain barrels this year in a safe and responsible manner that meets the current LA County Department of Health issued orders and protocols. And it's really important to stress that because as we've seen over even the last couple of weeks, those orders and mandates have varied and continue to change. So we're trying to roll out this program in a manner that allows us to achieve our goals, and again, do that in a safe way. Compared to last year, the pandemic situation has improved, but the number of cases from the Delta variant have increased recently. Through that, you have seen the mandate for masks indoors, but of course, I think there was a presentation most recently in the city of Hermosa Beach about increase in COVID cases within our hospitals. So we are monitoring that very closely through our Human Resources Department, and this plays into our recommendation for this program. In order to keep staff safe, we're proposing a hybrid program this year. The concept would be to borrow from last year's success of the delivery option, where we saw 1,000 rain barrels requested and delivered within a 3-month period. Our intent is to roll out a hybrid program where we would still allow that so that people can stay home and stay safe, and we would deliver those rain barrels to them so they can install them, as well as offer 2 pickup options where they could come through a very orderly and organized manner and pick up a rain barrel on a given weekend. So with this, we're proposing 2 outdoor in-person events. As part of the memo, we provided information on, I think, page 49 and 50 on how the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts conducted a drive-through recycling event at their facility. Again, we've done some research and we're trying to borrow from other successes while at the same time keeping everybody safe. Time-wise, we would begin offering the home delivery program this winter, and if the COVID situation improves, we would host the 2 events in the spring of 2022. These events would be held at West Basin properties so that we could control the environment. We would host one at the Edward C. Little Water Recycling Facility, as well as one at the Donald L. Deere headquarters buildings. Again, this would allow us to ensure those that are participating in the event, as far as the outdoor components, are vaccinated, and we are aware kind of the numbers. Typically when we request volunteer organizations, we really have no control who those volunteers are, and really we would have no control over if those volunteers have been vaccinated. So in order to do this and to do this safely, we're suggesting that we limit it to 2 on our property with West Basin staff and West Basin volunteers to help carry out those events. By hosting them this way, we would have more control in developing a safe layout and implementing our own safety protocols. The South Bay Cities Council of Governments is under contract to provide staff and assist West Basin with these events. So as such, we would ask that they send us any of their staff members that have been vaccinated so that we can continue to roll this out with their assistance. For these reasons, and in conclusion, we do want to mention that we have thought about a role that a local nonprofit could play. However, at this time, the concerns of not being able to really control the numbers of volunteers that we receive. For those of you who have attended those events, sometimes we get 5 to 6 volunteers and sometimes as many as 25. They sometimes come in varying ages. We have a lot of high school students and college students even, and then, older adults. However, we want to make sure that we maintain some sort of safety protocol where we're masked up, and of course, we have vaccinated people there participating in those events. So with that, I think that covers the update. I know that we're excited to roll this program out. We do recognize that members of the public sometimes prefer one option or the other, so we're going to try to play it by ear as far as the numbers go. Anything that we get delivered at those events, anything left over, we would push out through our delivery methodology. But I think that this program is very popular, And I think we'll be able to get those rain barrels out and into the public and connected this year. So with that, I think that wraps up my portion, or Gus's portion of the presentation. But I am happy to answer questions about the rain barrel program before I hand it over to Jennifer Vasquez.
Okay, thank you. It's good to hear. See, Director Houston.
Sure. Thank you. I almost called you Gus. Thank you, Gus. No, thank you, EJ. A couple questions. I didn't hear, how many rain barrels are you all thinking this year? Last year was 1,000. Normally we do what, 2,500. So have you put a number on it yet, or not?
So what we typically do, because we utilize MAA funds, metropolitan funds, to help offset the cost of the rain barrels, when we would do them in person only, we would have the 5 events, we would do 2,000. Last year, with the delivery only methodology, we delivered 1,000. So we're trying to find that safe spot. We're looking at approximately 1,500 this year.
Okay, good. Because I was thinking, yeah, I think we should try and do more than what we did last year. I realize it's a challenge, and so I think this probably is the best approach, as much as I don't like saying that, because things just keep changing with this. And, you know, I've been really pushy on returning to normal and having outdoor events. So I do think this is a good alternative. I think having 2 events, you know, on our own properties makes a lot of sense. I do think, you know, you're going to have to figure out the numbers on site of how many. So I do think like if we normally in the past, when we did real in-person events, I think it was about 200 barrels, right? 200 barrels a shot. You know, I assume you'll try and push that up to, you know, 300 or 350 or something. So look, the people have a big opportunity to just go down in person, get it, and go, and we don't have to rely as much on delivery. I'm just putting it out there. But also knowing how resources are and how, you know, it's hard to manage all these people coming through. But last but not least, you know, the models are there, as you said. You know, people can go get food. There's food distribution events. People are picking up fast food. We all drive through drive-throughs, and we're doing it safely. There's, you know, the shredding events. You know, you take your stuff to get shredded. They'll open your trunk. You don't have to, you know, no one's touching anything or whatever. So I know we can do it if you guys stage it properly. So for what it's worth, I think that this is the best way to go, in my perspective. And I will, let's be honest, I assume a lot of Division 4 folks will probably take advantage of the delivery, because it's a long ways away, right, to drive down from Malibu or Topanga or Culver. But for what it's worth, people love options. Lastly, I heard you mention it would be in the spring. You know, I really would encourage it during the winter months. So if it's January, February, maybe lastly into March, but, you know, because once the rainy season ends, you know, you lose the momentum. And so we're planning early. I think it'd be good to really try and do it as early as possible in the new year during the rainy season. And so so that's my feedback.
Thank you for your feedback.
Director Alvarez.
No comments.
I have none. Director Gray.
I have none. Thank you.
Yeah, you're moving in the right direction at the right speed. So carry on.
Well, thank you very much for that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer Vasquez to take us down this final stretch.
Great, thank you so much. I will begin at the top portion of board packet page 51 with an update to the grass replacement rebate section. Staff has included the rebate application table on this same page. It does look a little bare just because it is the start of the fiscal year. And please note that this report, of course, begins from July 1st and forward, with an update that there were a total of 4 applications received and processed in the month of July. So that will be updated in the next board packet. Also, I did want to just remind the board that a total authorized amount of $175,000 was processed in this current fiscal year budget to continue offering West Basin's additional dollar per square foot. And recognizing today's direction on the previous item, West Basin will process any additional documentation for this program moving forward with the feedback and direction that we received today, depending on the timing, of course, of that. And last month, staff drafted a grass replacement strategic plan aimed at marketing this program to its highest potential throughout the year, with a strong focus that was placed on updating the program website to create additional resources for residents in the grass replacement process by highlighting key elements of the application process. So for example, we did consider one of the most common concerns in getting through the application, which is measuring the total square foot of the area of the grass area proposed. So there are various resources available that allow aerial measurements, for example, or tips on beginning the process of measuring your landscape that can be used when you're applying for this rebate. Additionally, a new flyer with accompanying website materials is in the approval process for a release scheduled later this month. And also right below the application table, staff has also included the monthly summary image of the Metropolitan Conservation Activity as updated in the July Conservation Board report with committed dollars as of May 10th, 2021, excuse me. Staff has also included a short summary of the FY 20 and 2021 turf replacement applications. We finalized the last fiscal year with a total of 91 applications that were received to the SoCal WaterSmart program website between July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, with a total of 154,520 square feet considered for these turf replacement projects. The average of all projects was 1,698 square feet. And we've also included the application numbers in the respective divisions throughout the year with the final numbers outlined on page 53. We hope to continue promoting the grass replacement rebate and generating interest for this program as the fall months approach. Moving into the grass replacement class section, just really quickly before I pause, all remaining class dates are listed below in the look ahead calendar on board packet page 55. These classes will continue to be scheduled on a regular basis throughout the month into the future. I did just check the Be Waterwise website, which is listed on this board packet page, and there are dates available until October. So there are a lot of dates for all of the 3 classes that are available through the Metropolitan website. So far, no word from Metropolitan staff on the inclusion of any new formats for these classes. It appears that they will continue going strong with the webinar format. As I mentioned, now scheduled, I see October 28th as one of the latest classes there added on the Be Waterwise website from what I'm seeing. So at this point, I will take a brief pause to answer any questions regarding the grass replacement program updates. If none, I can continue with Cash for Kitchens, which is also on page 54.
A quick question. Is there an optimum square footage removal that we're looking for, or just any amount?
There is a program minimum, which is 250 square feet, as long as residents are 250 square feet is the minimum requirement for the application. So other than that, and then the maximum being 5,000 square feet currently being accepted by the Metropolitan rebate. So it has to fall within that area as far as receiving the dollar amount per square foot rebate that is offered. So 250 being the smallest project and 5,000 square feet being the largest project. So usually most of those fall within that range, depending on what areas are being converted. There really is a mix of front yard, a backyard. A lot of residents are able to include that parkway area, which I always consider is what I call the area strip of land between the street and the sidewalk. And that's also included in this program. So it could be that smaller project, but it does have to be the minimum of 250 square feet.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question.
Fantastic. Director Houston.
Sure, really, really fast, Jennifer. Is there a time of year that people seem to take advantage of this program more than other times of year? Or is it just sort of sporadic?
It's sort of sporadic. Just looking, I guess, at the application table there, we can kind of review the fact that there is a jump sometime, I want to say in the in the fall, or also in preparation for spring, which is also what we say. But because we are trying to promote the program, like I said earlier, throughout the year, it takes it can vary on how much time people need to prepare for this type of project, based on a lot of the conversations we had, if they're going to be DIYers or if they're going to hire someone to complete this work. So it could be perhaps that they enter the application, begin the process, but the actual completion takes a little bit longer. They utilize the 6-month time frame that Metropolitan offers. So yeah, it really is hard to say. I guess for last year's numbers, we see that April, May, June, we ended off really strong with the application. And again, that could be due to other factors with a lot of the messaging that we have going on surrounding the drought, residents becoming more aware of these rebates that are now being communicated even stronger with the messaging that's going on. So a lot of things could go into play, and that really is something that West Basin can take a lead on, just continuing that effort throughout the year, which is what we mentioned, so that whenever residents are ready to take advantage of this rebate, we have that information available for them to go ahead and proceed and start their projects.
Okay, and then big picture, I think it's amazing, 154,000 square feet of grass removed in our service area. In my opinion, I think that we should somehow promote that or talk about it, because now it's the fiscal year, it ended, and last fiscal year we did XYZ, and now the program's still running. Get in on it now, blah blah blah. My personal opinion, I just think that we should be very proud of that number. I would ask that staff maybe look at how you promote that. Now that we closed out the fiscal year, here's how much we did, and what is the context of that? Because how does a person put into context how big 154,000 square feet of surface area is, right? So if it's going to be like it's how many football fields or whatever. So I'm putting it out there to the staff and to the general manager. I think that would be something that we should integrate into some of our outreach efforts as we continue promoting the next phase of the program.
We'll certainly take a look at that. Thank you for the direction.
All right, so Director Gray.
No, thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Ms. Dwr hasn't made it. All right, next item, please.
So sorry, just really quickly finishing off, but I didn't want to interrupt anyone, so I didn't want to jump ahead. But yeah, Director Houston, I really appreciate that of making the, I kind of heard the football field comments, and I agree. I think it's that connection back to the residents that are participating and encouraging these actions. Yeah, we can definitely work with our public information team to develop something along those lines. Based on that direction. So I really appreciate that in your comments. Thank you. Just really quickly moving on for Cash for Kitchens, West Basin staff has secured an agreement extension with DWR and USVR to extend the grant through June 30th of 2022. And so this month, this past month, July 2021, training was held for marketing strategies that will be implemented in this new fiscal year. The previous consultant involved with marketing activities did share a list of targeted sites eligible for this program. And so West Basin staff will focus on engaging city and retail staff to promote program opportunities across the service area, and continue conducting water efficiency surveys and engaging sites with water saving opportunities with restaurants and commercial kitchens. Lastly, for the Ocean Friendly Garden section, beginning at the top portion of board packet page 55, West Basin staff finalized the requisition process and selected Swacer Landscapes to provide landscape maintenance and design services for the Ocean Friendly Garden program until June 30th, 2021. So that's the latest update there. We had mentioned the RFP process that we were in, and we did finalize in the month of July. And so design assistance is actually added on to the services that Swayzer Landscapes can conduct. So this is for city and school staff that may be interested in grass replacement program projects, and that allows us to assist those agencies considering those projects with design services as well. And that is my last update. I am happy to take any questions that you may have, and thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you very much. Director Houston.
I'm good, thank you.
Director Alvarez. Director Gray.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you much. Nice report. Next item.
We have one last information item. Item 6F, our water bottle filling station update. And this is our very own Tammy Hurley-High, our water policy resources analyst.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, EJ. Good afternoon, Chair William, members Houston, and board directors. So today's presentation will provide an overview and status update on activities of this program, and to include installation and the promotional photo opportunities. So if we could start with slide 3, looking at page 64 of the packet, thank you. This is a list of agencies that still have pending construction plans. So these entities, they have submitted their applications prior to fiscal year ending 2020. For St. Philomena, they are hoping to have their station installed soon before their session opens, get back in session with school. And then for the city of Rolling Hills Estate, the city has informed me that they have received delivery of the 2 stations, and their maintenance team will be working to have them installed. And for the city of Redondo Beach, they have needed to perform some major construction activities. So for the water bottle filling station, they're hoping to have it installed before the fall season comes underway. And then with regard to the Culver City schools, the construction is still underway. And so again, as much of these installation delays, they've largely been due in part as a result of facility closures that they've had for such a long time last year. So moving on to slide 5, the next slide on page 66. This list includes a list of the agencies that have submitted applications during this past fiscal year. It includes applications for the Palos Verdes Peninsula School District, Culver City School District, and the cities of Malibu, Gardena, and Lawndale. And so far, there's been 1 unit that they've already installed. And if we can go to the next slide, we can show a photo that we just received from the city of Gardena. So they just installed the station at Rowley Park. We're currently coordinating signage, and we'll be following up to arrange a photo opportunity with their city officials. So moving on to slide 7, the next slide. These are a list of a few agencies we are working with to schedule photo opportunities. And we have also confirmed a photo opportunity next week for with the city of Lawndale for Director Dwr to join as well. And other agencies that we're in contact with to schedule photo opportunities include the city of Inglewood and the El Segundo High School. And so as more information becomes available for these photo opportunities, we will continue to keep all of the directors informed and to confirm the dates and times.
Very good.
So, and then lastly, on slide 8, shows how the budget ended for the last fiscal year and how the budget begins for this fiscal year. So that wraps up this update, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Questions?
No questions. Thank you. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay,
Tammy, you did a great job. No questions. You answered all of our questions in your presentation. Thank you.
okay.
Next item.
And President Williams, that brings us to the conclusion of our information calendar. The next item is number 7, closed session. There are no closed session items today. That takes us to item number 8, director's comments and future agenda items.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Director Houston, comments.
Sure. Just 2 things. I would say, 1, please tell guests we miss him. I noticed he wasn't here, and hopefully they get the power back on out there as soon as possible. And plus, it must be hot out there. The secondary, I really think that these were some excellent discussions today on a manner of topics. And so I think what it reiterated to me is West Basin has been a visionary agency. We've been a leader in many ways, certainly on recycled water. But here we are talking about our conservation, our outreach, and I'm really happy at the dialogue we had today, both at the board and the staff, because I think we need to keep thinking outside the box, and we need to push things, push the envelope harder into our communities, because we're working hard on behalf of them. So, anyways, I just want to applaud all of you because this was a really good discussion, and I think we're going to come out with some more creative programming in the next handful of months that will serve our communities very well. So that's just my comments, and let's keep moving in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Alvarez. Oh, Director Gray.
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo what Director Houston said. Thank you to staff. They were excellent reports, not surprising, but thank you again for the reports today. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Well, thank you. I agree too. We do great work, and we don't need to be shy about telling people about what we do. We need to take the stance of a guerrilla marketing. You got to be out there. Like it's been said, like in marketing 101, you got to tell somebody something 10 times before they get it. So we really have to be out there promoting what we do, to show the community, the district, that what we are doing for them, for us, is what we ought to be doing. And we just want, the only way we can get them to understand that is that we have to tell them, because what they're seeing, the positive stuff they get out there is about, they think it's somebody else doing, the county, LA, or someone else. But when they see something negative and someone mention our name, well, they think all the negatives are about us. So we need to be out there, for lack of a better way of saying it, we need to be out there tooting our own horn. I've heard it said that he who does not toot his own horn goes toothless. So I hope we can do that. And again, thank you all of you. Again, it's all about having a self-directed team that does the real work, and that's what we have. And then we're led by a manager who supports that and gets out of the way of staff, and he knows what to delegate, and he doesn't get in the way of that, and things get done, and they get done to the best interest of our district and the people we serve. So thank you, and if there's nothing else, then we'll move to item 9, which is adjournment. Any objections?
No objection, Mr. Chair.
No, I didn't think so. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you, President Williams, members of the committee and board.